Sometimes, the obstacles we face in life are not there to stop us but to make us stronger. This story is about a young athlete's dreams growing amidst limitations and how his encounter with the fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt, changed his life. Carlos, who learns that speed doesn't just come from the legs but begins in the mind, regains his self-belief and becomes not just an athlete, but also a source of inspiration. If you've ever lost faith in yourself while chasing your dreams, this story is for you. Because sometimes, the words of an idol can be the spark that changes your life. Usain Bolt teaches a young runner that speed is not just physical. Carlos was a 17-year-old talented athlete living in a small town in South America. The town was nestled at the foot of the mountains, and life there flowed quietly. But Carlos's life began every morning before sunrise at the town's only running track. For him, running was not just a sport, it was a passion. Carlos dreamed of one day competing in the Olympics and becoming the fastest man in the world, like Usain Bolt. However, the lack of opportunities in his town, and his occasional self-doubt, cast a shadow over his dreams. Carlos's talent had caught the attention of everyone in the town, especially his school's physical education teacher, Mr. Ramirez, who saw his potential and supported him at every opportunity. One day, Mr. Ramirez called Carlos over and gave him some exciting news. "Carlos, next week, Usain Bolt is organizing an athletics camp in our country. I want to send you there." Carlos was both thrilled and terrified by the news. Usain Bolt was his idol, but the thought of being in the same environment as him, let alone speaking to him, felt almost impossible. What if I'm not good enough? What if he doesn't like me? He couldn't help but wonder. But Mr. Ramirez reassured him, saying, "This is a huge opportunity for you, Carlos. Don't sell yourself short." When Carlos arrived at the camp, he found himself surrounded by talented athletes from all over the world. Everyone was fast. Everyone was ambitious. During the first training session, Carlos felt slower than the others. Until then, he had been the fastest in his town. But here, everything was different. His confidence began to waver. On the second day, Usain Bolt appeared at the camp. Everyone was thrilled to see him. Carlos was seeing him up close for the first time. Bolt observed the training sessions and gave advice to the athletes. Carlos wanted to talk to him but didn't have the courage. "He's the fastest man in the world. Who am I to talk to him?" he thought. During one of the training sessions, Carlos tripped and fell while trying to accelerate. As he got up, he saw Usain Bolt walking toward him. His heart began to race. Bolt leaned down and asked, "Why are you so tense?" Carlos mumbled in surprise, "Everyone is so fast. I can't keep up." Usain Bolt smiled and said, "Speed doesn't just come from your legs. It starts here," pointing to his forehead. "If you keep telling yourself you're slow in your mind, no matter how strong your legs are, you'll never reach your full potential." Carlos was stunned by these words. Usain Bolt began to share his own story. "When I was your age, everyone told me, 'You're too tall. You're not built for sprinting.' But I never gave up. Every day I told myself, 'I am fast. I am strong.' I trained my mind because that's where the secret to speed lies." Bolt continued, "You have talent, Carlos. But you don't believe in yourself. If you don't feel fast in your mind, your legs will never take you where you want to go." On the final day of the camp, a race was organized. Carlos stepped up to the starting line, knowing Usain Bolt would be watching. When the starting whistle blew, he pushed forward with all his strength. His mind was focused on one thing: "I am fast." When he crossed the finish line in first place, Usain Bolt walked over to him and said, "That's it. Now I see your true potential." After returning from the camp, Carlos's self-belief had completely transformed. A year later, He won first place at the National Youth Championships and earned the right to represent his country in international competitions. When Usain Bolt heard about his success, he sent him a message. Carlos, I'm proud of you. Remember, the secret to speed is always in your mind. Never give up. Usain Bolt's words ignited a spark in Carlos's mind. From that day on, he began to develop himself not just physically but mentally as well. Every morning he repeated to himself, I am fast. I am strong. While running on the track, he learned to silence the negative thoughts in his mind. When Carlos read this message, his eyes filled with tears. He was no longer just an athlete. He was now a young man inspired by Usain Bolt. And perhaps one day, he too would inspire another young athlete. Carlos began representing his country in international competitions. In every race, he remembered Usain Bolt's words and used the power of his mind to outpace his competitors. One day, he realized his dream of competing in the Olympics. As he ran on the track, he repeated the words Usain Bolt had told him. Speed starts here. When Carlos won a medal at the Olympics, Usain Bolt sent him another message. Carlos, you're no longer just an athlete. You're an inspiration. You're teaching young people that speed isn't just in the legs, it's in the mind. When Carlos read this message, tears welled up in his eyes once more. Now, he too was a role model, inspiring young athletes just like Usain Bolt had inspired him. The story ends here. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking, and see you in the next story.